Do you ever wonder what it feels like to be buried alive, not just in dirt, but in lies, secrets, and betrayal? Jack's voice was barely a whisper, yet it carried the weight of every moment he had fought to survive. His eyes, dark and haunted, held the kind of pain that no child should ever know, but also a fierce spark that refused to be extinguished. I'm not talking about a nightmare you wake up from. I'm talking about the cold, suffocating silence of being trapped beneath the earth, completely alone, struggling for every breath, every second that you're still alive. That was my reality, and the truth I uncovered didn't just threaten to destroy one family, it threatened to unravel everything I thought I knew about trust, loyalty, and what it means to belong. Stay with me, because what I'm about to reveal will shock you. It's a story of survival, courage, and a bond that defies blood. But most of all, it's a story that asks, how far would you go to protect someone when the whole world seems set against you? If you think you're ready for the truth, keep watching. What comes next will change everything. Jack had never known a normal childhood. At just 9 years old, his hands were already calloused and worn the harsh sun of the drylands, leaving a permanent mark on his skin. The drylands was a place where hope was as scarce as rain, a vast stretch of cracked earth and withering bushes. Old Hollow, the slum where he lived, was a forgotten corner of the world, where survival wasn't a choice, but a necessity. Nights were quiet, save for the rustle of dry leaves, the distant howl of stray dogs, and the occasional creak of a broken fence swaying in the wind. But this night was different. Jack woke to a sound that made his heart skip a beat. It wasn't the wind. It wasn't the barking dog. It was a muffled cry, like someone trapped beneath the earth, their voice barely audible but filled with desperation. His instincts kicked in. For a moment he hesitated. Should he run? Was it a trick? But the cries came again, clearer, desperate. Without thinking, Jack threw off the thin blanket that barely shielded him from the night chill and stumbled out of his ramshackle shelter. His feet hit the rough ground, sharp stones and scraps of metal cutting into his bare skin. He barely noticed. His eyes adjusted to the darkness, scanned the area, until they locked onto a mound of freshly disturbed earth. It was out of place, unnatural. Jack approached cautiously, but with urgency, dropping to his knees and running his hands over the loose soil. The cries were coming from beneath it. He dug with his hands, fingers scraping and clawing through the gritty soil. His rusty pocket knife lay forgotten at his side, broken from its last use. Time stretched painfully, the seconds ticking by, as his breath came in ragged gasps. Then suddenly his fingers brushed against something soft fabric. He pulled harder and felt pale, trembling fingers grasp his own. He didn't hesitate. He hauled the figure free, coughing and shuddering as dirt spilled from her. The girl's eyes fluttered open, wide, terrified, filled with confusion and pain. Jack wiped the grime from her face, his own hands shaking. "You're safe now," he whispered, though the words felt fragile in the vast emptiness of the night. Her name was Isabella Bennett, daughter of Alexander Bennett, a wealthy businessman who ruled the city of Newford with iron influence. Her face was known to everyone from billboards to news screens, but here she was, broken, vulnerable, and buried alive. Isabella clung to Jack as if he was the last tether to the world. Her voice was barely a whisper, telling him about the masked man who had taken her from school, about the strange scent that had made her lose consciousness, and the darkness she had awoken to beneath the earth. But there was more, a faint memory of a familiar voice, a betrayal from someone close to her family. Jack listened, each word deepening the knot of dread in his chest. His own life, filled with struggle and survival, suddenly seemed connected to hers in ways he couldn't yet understand. But the danger was far from over. Voices echoed nearby, rough, threatening, crawling over the silence like poison. Jack's heart slammed against his ribs. The drylands were ruled by gangs, and strangers in these parts didn't last long. He recognized one of the men, Kane, a ruthless thief known for stealing copper wires and extorting the weak. Alongside him was a newcomer, eyes cold and calculating. "They're here for us," Jack hissed, grabbing a heavy scrap of wood as a makeshift weapon. Isabella's wide eyes searched his face. "What do we do?" Jack's mind raced. He had no plan, only raw courage. He stepped into the moonlight, wood raised. "Just me here," he said, voice steady, despite the fear gnawing at his insides. Kane smirked. "Little hero, huh? Think you can protect your treasure?" The fight was brutal but brief. Jack ducked and swung, fueled by desperation and the need to protect the girl who had no one else. Cain lunged with a knife, but Jack was quicker. The scrap wood cracked hard against Cain's arm, sending him staggering back. Just as Cain regained footing, a shout cut through the night. "Leave him alone, Cain." Zach appeared, an older scavenger with a grizzled beard and eyes that held a strange kindness. His reputation as protector of the weak gave him authority among the gangs. The threat of his arrival was enough to send Cain and his companion retreating into the shadows. Jack sank to his knees, trembling with exhaustion. Isabella wrapped her arms around him, her strength slowly returning with every breath. The shack they called home was a ramshackle hideout on the outskirts of old hollow walls patched with scavenged wood and tattered tarp, smelling of mold smoke in desperation. Here, under the weak glow of dawn, Isabella shared fragmented memories: the school where she was taken, the cloth soaked in chemicals, the panic of being buried alive. She spoke of a voice, a clue pointing to someone close to her family, a betrayal that would shatter the facade of the Bennetts. Jack's own life had been defined by fear and invisibility, but Isabella's story made him realize they were both trapped, different worlds, same fight. And it was a fight neither could face alone. As the first rays of sun burned away, the night Jack gazed out over the barren land. The wind whispered secrets through the cracked earth, secrets he was only beginning to understand. For the first time, he didn't feel invisible. He felt seen. But that brought a new fear. What would happen now that the world knew he existed? Before we continue with Jack and Isabella's journey, I want to ask you this. If you were in Jack's place, alone, poor, and facing danger beyond your understanding, what would you risk to save someone from a world so different from your own? Would you have the courage to fight when all the odds are against you? Share your thoughts below, and if this story has moved you, please like the video and support our work. Your encouragement helps bring these stories to life. The dawn light seeped weakly through cracks in the ramshackle walls of their hideout, casting long shadows on the dirt floor, where Jack and Isabella sat surrounded by the silence that felt as heavy as the secret they now shared. The tension between them was palpable, an unspoken mix of fear, uncertainty, and an emerging bond forged in desperate survival. Isabella, still trembling from the ordeal of being buried alive, kept her gaze fixed on the fragile window pane, her mind racing to piece together fragmented memories. Jack watched her quietly, his heart aching with a protective instinct that surprised even himself. For so long, he had survived alone, invisible to the world, but now with Isabella by his side, his world had suddenly expanded, and with it came dangers he hadn't fully anticipated. The wind picked up outside, rattling the loose tarp covering their shelter, as if warning of the storm gathering, not just in the sky, but on the horizon of their lives. Jack's fingers tightened around the splintered piece of wood he'd grabbed during the confrontation with Cain. The memory of those threatening eyes, the cold sneer, and the weight of the blade pressed against his skin was fresh, fueling a fire in his chest. He felt the old instinct to fight, but now it was tangled with something new, a fierce determination to protect Isabella, no matter the cost. Isabella finally broke the silence, voice fragile yet resolute. "They buried me alive, Jack. But it wasn't just a random attack. Someone wanted to erase me, someone close. I heard a voice, familiar. Someone who's supposed to protect me." Her words hung in the air like a dark cloud, thick with betrayal. Jack's eyes darkened. "You think it's your family?" She nodded slowly, swallowing hard. "Yes, but I can't prove it yet." The gravity of her words weighed heavily on Jack. For the first time, his world of poverty and survival collided with the polished world of power and secrets. Yet here, in this crumbling shack, their fates were entwined. Suddenly, the soft crunch of footsteps on dry leaves shattered the fragile calm. Both froze. Jack's grip on the wood tightened. Isabella's eyes widened in alarm. Voices whispered outside, rough, urgent. "They're getting closer. Cain won't give up." Jack moved swiftly, pulling Isabella behind a stack of rusted barrels. His heart pounded, every sense on high alert. "Stay quiet," he whispered fiercely. The shadows moved, and through a slit in the tarp, Jack saw the glint of knives, the figures of men prowling their territory. The tension was suffocating. For Jack, this was more than a physical threat. It was a battle for their very existence. As the men circled, Jack's mind raced for a plan. They had no backup, no escape. The desperation in his chest threatened to overwhelm him, but the sight of Isabella vulnerable, yet fiercely alive, spurred him on. With a sudden burst, Jack leapt from cover, swinging the makeshift club with raw force. The attackers were caught off guard, and the brief skirmish was a chaotic dance of survival. Jack's every strike was fueled by fear and hope intertwined. Isabella, trembling but steady, called out, rallying for help. Just as Cain lunged with a knife aimed to silence Jack forever, a loud shout echoed. Zack, the grizzled scavenger, returned with a group of wary but loyal allies. The gang retreated, cursed but beaten. Breathing hard, Jack sank to the ground, trembling. Isabella's hand found his, squeezing tightly. "You saved me again." Jack looked at her, the weight of responsibility settling deeper. "I won't let them take you back, not to that life." In the days that followed, Isabella's presence sparked a small but fierce rebellion within Old Hollow. Jack became more than a forgotten boy. He was a guardian, a beacon of hope, in a place swallowed by despair. Yet the city of Newford was waking up to the scandal. News outlets buzzed with reports of Isabella's disappearance and miraculous rescue by a street kid. The Bennetts, powerful and proud, scrambled to control the narrative. Alexander Bennett's face was plastered on every screen, his concern a calculated mask hiding deeper fears. Isabella, torn between loyalty to her family and her bond with Jack, wrestled with an impossible choice. Could she trust her own blood when betrayal lurked in the shadows? Could Jack ever be more than a hero from the streets to her world of glass towers and velvet lies? One evening, as rain poured over Old Hollow, Isabella confronted Jack, her voice breaking with emotion. "If I go back, they'll erase you. They'll pretend you never saved me. I don't know if I'm ready for that." Jack's gaze was steady, filled with quiet strength. "Then we make them see you. We make them see me." Their alliance became a dangerous game of survival and truth. Isabella risked her privileged life to expose the corruption within her own family, while Jack faced threats that reached beyond the slum's shadowy figures, determined to silence the boy who dared defy the powerful. Amidst the chaos, Jack wrestled with his own fears. The boy who once believed himself invisible now stood on the brink of becoming a symbol of hope, defiance, and unyielding courage. But the price was high. Trust was scarce, and betrayal a constant threat. In the darkest moments, when doubt clawed at his resolve, Jack found strength in Isabella's unwavering faith. Their story, once just a desperate fight for survival, was becoming a beacon for the forgotten and the oppressed. As the storm outside raged on, the two made a silent pact to fight to reveal the truth and to hold on to the fragile thread of humanity that bound them. Before we continue this journey, I'd like to ask you, if faced with a choice between protecting someone you care about and preserving your own safety, what would you choose? Would you risk everything for love and justice? Share your thoughts below, and if this story has captured your heart, please hit the like button and support us. Your encouragement fuels the courage behind every word. The final chapter of Jack and Isabella's journey began on a morning when the sun broke through the sky with a warmth that felt like a promise. After nights of doubt and days shadowed by uncertainty, the heavy clouds hanging over their lives began to part, revealing a fragile but hopeful horizon. Jack stood by the window of a modest apartment in Newford, the city that had once seemed so alien, now becoming a place he was starting to call home. His reflection stared back at him, no longer just a scrappy street kid, but a young boy carrying the weight of a past he could not forget and the courage to shape a future he had chosen. Isabella sat nearby, the echoes of their shared trauma still lingering in her eyes, but replaced now by a steady resolve. They had fought through betrayal, danger, and heartbreak. They had faced the twisted truths of family secrets and corruption, and yet here they were standing together against the odds. The courtroom had been a battleground of emotions, a place where their story unfolded for all to see, where truth clashed with power and justice wavered in the face of legacy. But through it all, Jack's strength and Isabella's unwavering belief in him had won over hearts that once doubted. The judge's decision to grant Jack legal adoption was not just a victory for the law, but a profound recognition of their bond, their fight, and their right to belong. But the true victory was quieter, deeper. It was in the small moments, Jack learning to trust beyond survival, Isabella rediscovering her voice not just as a victim, but as a fighter. Together they planted a seed, literally and metaphorically, in the soil of Old Hollow. A young tree, a symbol of resilience and renewal, stood as a testament to their journey from darkness to light. One afternoon, Jack and Isabella returned to the edge of the drylands, the place where their story had begun, amid dust and despair. The skeletal remains of their old shelter whispered memories of pain and hope. Jack knelt and gently placed the last of his childhood keepsakes into the earth, the broken knife, a tattered notebook, remnants of a life left behind. Isabella followed, planting the small tree's roots into the barren ground, her hands steady despite the weight of the past. "This is our new beginning," she said softly. Jack smiled, a lightness blooming in his chest that no hardship could snuff out. The community they left behind had not forgotten. Their story inspired many a tale of courage that transcended class, of a friendship that challenged prejudice, and a fight for justice that resonated far beyond their world. Back in Newford, Jack faced a new challenge: normalcy. School hallways buzzed with whispers and curious glances, but this time he walked tall. His new name, Bennett, was more than a legal formality. It was a shield and a sword. With it came acceptance, but also the reminder of the journey that made him who he was. Teachers spoke of his kindness and determination. Peers who once stared in suspicion began to see the boy who had rescued a girl from death, who stood unyielding in the face of adversity. Friendships blossomed not because of his last name, but because of the heart he showed. At home, Alexander Bennett, once distant and guarded, had softened. Watching Jack and Isabella grow close, sharing laughter and dreams, he found a new definition of family, one that transcended bloodlines and embraced courage, loyalty, and love. One evening, as the three sat together beneath a sky scattered with stars, Jack opened his journal, a collection of memories, hopes, and lessons. "I want to tell our story," he said, "not just to remember, but to remind others that where you come from doesn't define who you can become." Isabella smiled, her eyes shining, and that even in the darkest places, light can grow. Their story wasn't just about survival, it was about healing, about confronting the shadows within and around them and choosing to rise, about forgiveness, not just of others, but of themselves, about belonging not through birthright, but through the ties they forged in fire and compassion. As the night wrapped around them, Jack knew the road ahead would not be without challenges, but for the first time he embraced it not as a lone survivor, but as a son, a friend, and a beacon of hope. Before I close this story, I want to ask you, what do you think is the most powerful lesson Jack and Isabella's journey teaches us about family and identity? And have you ever faced a moment where you had to choose courage over comfort? Please share your thoughts. I also want to hear from you about this story. Did it move you? If you loved it, please comment with number 3. If you felt it was just okay, comment number 2. And if you think it missed the mark or want to see more, comment number 1. Let me know which country you're watching from. I love knowing where these stories reach. Don't forget to like, send hearts, and share this video to help spread a message of hope and resilience. Thank you for joining Jack and Isabella's journey. Until next time.